What if you found out that some of the brightest golden age icons, the flawless beauties, the dreamy heartthrobs, the on-screen symbols of perfect romance, were hiding a truth that Hollywood treated like a crime? Imagine the glossy magazine covers, the staged love stories, the studio-made fairy tales, all built to protect careers that could shatter with one whisper. Behind the velvet gowns, the charming smiles, and the carefully crafted publicity shots were stars living double lives. Not because they wanted to, but because the industry left them no choice. These are the golden age stars whose hidden identities were buried under contracts, threats, and studio secrets. 10. Clifton Webb. Clifton Webb looked like the last person anyone would ever imagine living a secret life in Golden Age Hollywood. He played sharp-tongued bachelors, strict fathers, and elegant men who always seemed perfectly in control. But that polished image was exactly why the truth stayed hidden in plain sight. You saw a man who lived with his mother, spoke with refined confidence, and kept his private world locked far away from gossip columns. Yet those quiet walls held a very different reality. Webb was a gay man in an era where being yourself could end your career before you even stepped on set. Studios loved him because he fit a type: classy, witty, sophisticated. And because that image worked so well, no one dared ask why he never married or why his personal life stayed completely off limits. Inside Hollywood circles, everyone already knew the truth, but the public never heard a word. Webb protected his privacy with charm, humor, and sharp intelligence, letting the world believe whatever helped him survive. He built a long, impressive career while navigating a system designed to silence people like him. And even though he never said the words publicly, everything about his life showed how carefully he balanced fame with the risk of exposure. His story fits this title perfectly because he proves how many stars hid behind the spotlight while still shaping Hollywood history with unforgettable performances. 9. Marlene Dietrich. Marlene Dietrich didn't just bend Hollywood rules. She smashed them with style, confidence, and a mystery no one could copy. To audiences, she was the glamorous woman in the tuxedo, the smoky voice, the sly smile that made people lean closer. But what most viewers never knew was that Dietrich lived a bold, bisexual life during a time when even whispering about such things could destroy everything. Inside private circles, she moved freely, loving who she loved, ignoring every old-school tradition the studios tried to place on her. Yet on screen, she played roles that kept the public guessing, blending masculine and feminine energy in ways that felt years ahead of the world around her. Hollywood tried to hide reality by pairing her with famous leading men and spreading predictable romance stories. But Dietrich never belonged in a box. She explored her disease without apology, creating a personal freedom most Golden Age stars could only dream about from behind locked doors. She turned that freedom into power, controlling her image and shaping herself into one of the most unforgettable figures of the era. Dietrich fits this title because millions admired her without realizing the truth behind her fearless charm. Her real life was richer, deeper, and far more rebellious than the studio system ever allowed the public to see. 8. Greta Garbo. Greta Garbo was known as the woman who wanted to be alone, but that quiet line only scratched the surface of a much deeper truth. On screen, she was a mesmerizing mystery, a face that drew people in without saying more than a few soft words. Off screen, her life carried an even bigger secret. Garbo had deep, private relationships with women, something she guarded with fierce protection. Her silence was not coldness, it was survival. In the Golden Age, stars were expected to follow strict rules, smile for the cameras, and pretend their off-screen lives matched their movie romances. Garbo refused to play along. She avoided parties, skipped interviews, and lived in a world where she controlled every detail of her image. Inside that self-built wall, she lived in ways the public never suspected. Letters, journals, and first-hand accounts now reveal a woman who gave her heart to other women, yet knew she could never live openly. The studios crafted a fantasy around her, the perfect, unreachable goddess men dreamed of. The real Garbo was softer, more vulnerable, and much more complex. She fits this title because millions adored her without ever seeing the truth behind the curtain. Her privacy became her shield, letting her keep the parts of herself that Hollywood would never accept. And even now, her mystery remains one of the most captivating stories of the Golden Age. 7. Tallulah Bankhead. Tallulah Bankhead walked through Golden Age Hollywood like a storm wrapped in silk. She was bold, funny, loud, and shockingly honest at a time when most stars tiptoed around their secrets. What audiences never saw was how openly bisexual she was within her private circle, even while studios carefully avoided letting the public know. Bankhead lived her truth without fear, surrounding herself with artists, writers, and performers who accepted her as she was. Yet the outside world knew nothing because the industry buried anything that did not fit its perfect, polished image. She carried her freedom into every room she entered. Her voice filled spaces, her personality took over conversations, and her rebellious charm made directors nervous and fans obsessed. Her relationships with women were whispered about backstage, never written on paper, and deliberately kept off magazine covers. Still, she never hid behind fake romances or scripted love stories. She simply lived, refusing to follow rules that asked her to shrink herself to fit what Hollywood wanted. Bankhead perfectly suits this title because she lived a truth that the public never understood, even while she stood right in front of them. Her life shows how powerful a person can be when they refuse to apologize for their nature, even in an age built on silence and shadows. Her energy, her passion, and her fearless spirit made her one of the most unforgettable figures of her time. 6. Ramon Novarro. Ramon Novarro was one of the first international movie stars, a face so captivating that crowds lined up just to see his smile on giant silent screens. But behind that charming image was a man carrying a secret he could never reveal. Novarro was gay, and although people inside Hollywood knew it, the public was kept in the dark through carefully planned appearances and studio-crafted stories. He had relationships with men throughout his life, yet none of that ever reached the newspapers. The studios used every trick to protect their investment. They dressed him up as the perfect romantic hero, pairing him with actresses for photo shoots, inventing love stories, and making sure no one saw the truth he carried quietly in his personal world. For Novarro, the silence was both protection and pain. He loved deeply, but he had to do it in the shadows, always aware that one wrong rumor could end everything he worked for. The pressure exhausted him, but he still delivered unforgettable performances that turned him into a legend. His story fits this title because he was adored by millions who never knew what he was hiding behind his gentle smile. And even though he lived in an era that tried to erase people like him, his life now stands as a powerful reminder of how much strength it took to survive in a world built on secrecy. William Haynes. William Haynes had everything Hollywood wanted: good looks, charm, and the kind of screen presence that filled theaters. He quickly became one of the most popular leading men of the 1920s. But Haynes also lived a truth that the studio system refused to accept. He was openly gay within his close circle, living with the man he loved at a time when the entire industry demanded silence and pretend romances. The studio offered him a choice: deny his relationship, marry a woman for publicity, and keep his career, or walk away from everything. Haynes chose love. That decision shocked the industry because no one ever defied the system and survived. The moment he refused to hide who he was, his acting career ended. But instead of disappearing, he built a new life with his partner and became one of the most successful interior designers in the country. Haynes belongs in this title because he did what almost no Golden Age star dared to do. He chose truth over fame. His courage reshaped his future, proving that a career built on lies was not worth more than living honestly with the person he loved. His story stands as one of the most powerful examples of how real bravery looked behind Hollywood's carefully polished curtain. 4. Anthony Perkins. Anthony Perkins built his career playing soft-spoken, nervous, deeply emotional characters, the kind of men who seemed gentle even when danger lurked beneath the surface. But the real secret of his life was far more complicated than anything written in a script. Perkins had long, meaningful relationships with men throughout his younger years, yet Hollywood forced him into fake dates and polished magazine stories that painted him as the perfect romantic bachelor for female fans. The pressure to hide was crushing, especially for someone already shy and private. Studios feared that the truth would ruin his rising career, so they controlled every rumor, every appearance, every whisper that got too close to reality. Before his marriage later in life, Perkins lived under a system that demanded silence, even when silence cost him parts of himself. His feelings, his relationships, his identity, everything had to be locked away to protect the roles he was given. And despite all of that, he still delivered unforgettable performances that helped define psychological thrillers for an entire generation. Perkins fits this title because he represents the complicated mix of talent, fear, and secrecy that shaped so many careers in the Golden Age. His success shone on screen, while the truth he carried stayed hidden behind the carefully built walls Hollywood designed to protect its illusion. 3. Montgomery Clift. Montgomery Clift was one of the most talented actors of his time, a man whose emotional acting style changed Hollywood forever. Audiences saw a sensitive, soulful leading man who poured real pain into every scene. What they never understood was how much of that pain came from living a bisexual life he could never speak about. Clift had relationships with both men and women, but every detail had to be kept away from the cameras and reporters. The studio system treated him like a fragile treasure, guarding his image so tightly that even his closest friends knew better than to speak openly. The pressure pushed him into a world filled with fear, loneliness, and endless self-protection. Still, his performances stayed powerful, raw, and deeply honest, even when his real life was full of private struggles. Clift matches this title perfectly because he was admired for emotions that came from battles the audience never saw. His hidden relationships shaped his inner world, while Hollywood worked overtime to pretend they never existed. His life became a heartbreaking example of how much the Golden Age demanded from those who didn't fit its narrow version of perfection. 2. Tab Hunter. Tab Hunter's name once sent fans into a frenzy. He was the clean-cut, sun-kissed icon the studios paraded everywhere: posters, magazines, movie premieres, staged dates with glamorous actresses. But the truth underneath all that shine was far different. Hunter was a gay man trapped inside Hollywood's strictest expectations. Behind the scenes, he built quiet, private relationships with male actors, while the studio crafted fake romances to keep the illusion alive. One wrong headline could have destroyed his entire career, and he knew it. The more famous he became, the more carefully the lie had to be protected. Studio executives even arranged public outings with actresses just to keep fans believing he was the perfect, straight, leading man. Living under that level of control meant hiding major parts of his identity, his desires, and his real love life. Hunter fits this title because the world adored him without knowing the truth he had to bury just to stay on screen. Later in life, he finally opened up about everything he had to hide, giving people a glimpse into how much the industry demanded from him and how strong he had to be to endure it. Rock Hudson. Rock Hudson was the symbol of the Golden Age leading man, tall, handsome, charming, and adored by millions. Women dreamed about him, men wanted to be like him, and the studios depended on his perfect image to sell movies around the world. But behind that flawless fantasy was one of the biggest hidden truths in Hollywood history. Hudson was a gay man trapped inside a system that would have destroyed his entire career if the truth ever surfaced. Executives created fake relationships, staged photos, and carefully crafted stories to make sure audiences believed he was the ideal, straight romantic hero. For years, he lived in fear of exposure, building friendships quietly, loving privately, and choosing caution over comfort because any slip could cost him everything. Even as he became one of the most famous actors on the planet, he carried the weight of a secret that shaped every choice he made. Hudson fits this title more than anyone because his life shows how powerful and painful the Hollywood illusion could be. Millions saw a dream on screen, but only a small circle knew the reality he spent a lifetime protecting. So now that you've seen the hidden side of Hollywood's most glamorous era, you can't help but wonder, how many more stories were buried to protect the perfect illusion? These stars spent their entire lives walking a tightrope between fame and truth, leaving behind mysteries the industry hoped you'd never uncover. If you want more untold secrets, forgotten histories, and behind-the-curtain revelations, don't just scroll away. Hit that like button, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you never miss what Hollywood tried so hard to hide. After all, aren't you curious about what other stories were erased from the spotlight?
What if I told you that some of Hollywood's biggest action icons, the ones who once ruled the silver screen as invincible, straight-talking tough guys, were secretly living a lie? Behind the adrenaline-pumping fight scenes, the explosive blockbusters, and the charmed lives, there was a truth they couldn't reveal: their love for men. In a time when being gay could shatter careers, these legends kept their true selves hidden, even from their closest friends and fans. Here are 15 action legends who lived in the shadows, hiding their sexuality until death. And some of them never got the chance to reveal it. Number 15, James Dean. James Dean became the ultimate rebel icon. His brooding intensity in just 3 major films created an immortal legacy. Dean's sexuality was always the subject of speculation. He had documented relationships with both men and women. His rumored affairs included actors and actresses alike. Dean never publicly addressed his private life. His performances in East of Eden, Rebel Without a Cause, and Giant revolutionized screen acting. He brought a new psychological depth to his characters. His method approach influenced generations of actors. Dean's troubled relationship with his father informed his performance. He found father figures in directors like Elia Kazan. His friendship with Sal Mineo contained homoerotic undertones. These same themes appeared in Rebel Without a Cause. Dean's passion for fast cars ultimately led to his downfall. He died tragically in a car accident at age 24. This early death preserved him forever as an enigmatic figure. Various biographers have claimed different truths about his sexuality. Some friends described him as bisexual, others as gay. Dean's mystery and ambiguity became part of his lasting appeal. He represented the complexity of sexuality that defied simple labels. His brief career suggested greatness that would never be fulfilled. Number 14, Tab Hunter. Tab Hunter was a matinee idol with millions of adoring fans. Teenage girls plastered his pictures on their bedroom walls, but Hunter harbored a secret that could destroy his career. He had a hidden love affair with fellow actor Anthony Perkins. The studios arranged dates with women to maintain his image. They created fake romances for the gossip magazines. Hunter had to smile for cameras while hiding his true self. Only decades later, in his 2005 memoir, Tab Hunter Confidential, did he finally reclaim his truth. He spoke openly about the pain of living a lie. He revealed how the studio system forced him into a role both on and off screen. Number 13, Anthony Perkins. Anthony Perkins terrified audiences as Norman Bates in Psycho. On screen, he portrayed intense and troubled characters. Off screen, he lived a double life. Perkins married Barry Berenson in 1973 to maintain his public image, but he had secret relationships with men throughout his life. His struggle to balance his career and identity haunted him. The pressure to conform took a toll on his mental health. He feared discovery at every turn. Hollywood gossip followed him constantly. Perkins never came out publicly during his lifetime. He died from AIDS-related pneumonia in 1992. Only after his death did the full story of his life emerge. His struggle represented the painful choice many stars faced between truth and career. Number 12. Montgomery Clift. Montgomery Clift earned 4 Oscar nominations for his intense performances. His enigmatic presence captivated audiences. He carefully dodged questions about his private life. Those close to him knew he loved both men and women. Hollywood whispered about his sexuality constantly. Clift chose to live mostly in New York to avoid Hollywood's intense spotlight. His refusal to play the publicity game damaged his career. Clift brought a new kind of masculine vulnerability to the screen. His performances in From Here to Eternity and A Place in the Sun showed remarkable depth. He partnered with Elizabeth Taylor in several films. She became one of his closest allies and protectors. A devastating car accident in 1956 left him physically and emotionally scarred. The accident changed his beautiful face forever. He turned to alcohol and pills for relief. His addictions worsened as his career declined. Studios became reluctant to hire him due to his unreliability. His final years were marked by pain and isolation. Clift never publicly addressed his sexuality. He died at just 45, his secrets intact. His struggle with identity and fame created a template for tortured artists that followed. His brief but brilliant career showed what might have been possible without the burden of secrecy. Number 11. Dirk Bogarde. British heartthrob Dirk Bogarde captivated audiences with his intensity and charm. He never publicly came out during his lifetime, but his lifelong partnership with manager Anthony Forwood was an open secret in the industry. They lived together for over 40 years. Bogarde bravely took roles that hinted at his truth. His performance in Victim, 1961, as a lawyer being blackmailed for homosexuality, was groundbreaking. Later in life, his writings revealed profound sadness at never being able to live openly. He wrote coded messages in his memoirs. Bogarde chose art and subtle resistance over the public declaration. His later career choices reflected his desire to tell authentic stories about hidden lives. Number 10. George Nader. George Nader stood on the edge of stardom in the 1950s. Handsome and talented, studios groomed him for leading roles, but his career was sacrificed to protect Rock Hudson from exposure. When Confidential magazine threatened to publish an expose on Hudson, Universal Studios offered Nader as a substitute target. His career in Hollywood ended abruptly. Nader moved to Europe and later wrote science fiction. He lived quietly with his partner Mark Miller for over 50 years. They were together until Nader died in 2002. Nader chose love over fame. His loyalty to both Miller and Hudson showed remarkable character. His story reveals how studios sometimes sacrificed one career to save another more profitable one. Number 9. Jack Larson. Jack Larson became famous for playing Jimmy Olsen in Adventures of Superman. The role typecasted him as the innocent, boyish photographer. Unlike many of his contemporaries, Larson lived quietly and proudly as a gay man. He never pretended to be someone else. His relationship with filmmaker James Bridges lasted over 3 decades, until Bridges died in 1993. Larson transitioned from acting to playwriting and producing. He avoided the publicity machine that forced others to lie. Larson lived his truth with dignity. He represented a different path, one where authenticity mattered more than stardom. His long-term relationship with Bridges showed that lasting love was possible even in an intolerant era. Number 8. Rock Hudson. Rock Hudson became the poster boy for 1950s masculinity. His charm and leading man looks made women swoon. Men wanted to be him, but his entire public persona was just a mask. Behind the scenes, Hudson endured fake marriages. He had secret romances with men. He lived in constant terror of exposure. The studios protected their investment at all costs. They arranged dates with famous actresses. They created stories about his romantic pursuits with women. Hudson starred in dozens of romantic comedies opposite Doris Day. The irony was painful for him. His agent Henry Wilson created his stage name to sound more masculine. His real name was Roy Scherer Jr. Hudson played the game perfectly. He smiled at the cameras. He danced with actresses at clubs. He gave interviews about his search for the right woman. But at home, he lived in fear. Only when he was dying of AIDS in 1985 did the world finally see the truth. His diagnosis shattered the illusion Hollywood had carefully built around him. His death marked the end of an era of secrets. His legacy now includes being one of the first major celebrities to die from AIDS-related complications. Number 7. Cesar Romero. Cesar Romero charmed audiences with his debonair style. He became immortalized as the original Joker in the Batman television series. Behind closed doors, his queerness was an open secret in Hollywood. Unlike many stars, Romero made no effort to marry or chase women. He lived his truth with charm and discretion. Romero attended Hollywood events alone or with friends. He never denied his sexuality when asked directly. He simply changed the subject with characteristic grace. His career spanned decades without a major scandal. He played Latin lovers and sophisticated gentlemen with equal ease. Romero came from wealth. His family had status in Cuban society. This financial independence allowed him more freedom than many actors. He didn't need to conform to keep working. His role as the Joker introduced him to a new generation of fans. He famously refused to shave his mustache for the role. The makeup team simply applied white face paint over it. Romero maintained his career without compromising his private life. He found a balance that worked within the constraints of his time. His approach represented a quiet resistance to Hollywood's demands for conformity. Romero's elegance and dignity kept him working well into his 80s. Number 6. Farley Granger. Farley Granger captivated audiences with his handsome, boyish looks. He starred in Hitchcock classics like Rope and Strangers on a Train. Unlike many actors of his era, Granger refused to hide. He openly had relationships with both men and women. This radical honesty came at a professional cost. The studios couldn't control him. They eventually stopped offering him prime roles. Granger chose Broadway and European films instead. In his 2007 memoir, he spoke frankly about his relationships with men, including screenwriter Arthur Lawrence. Granger's refusal to play by Hollywood's rules showed remarkable courage. He chose authenticity over stardom and lived on his terms. Number 5. Randolph Scott. Randolph Scott embodied the ultimate cowboy hero in over 100 films. Tall, rugged, and soft-spoken, he defined Western masculinity. Scott shared a home and possibly a life with Cary Grant for over a decade. Their bachelor bungalow became legendary in Hollywood circles. Publicity photos showed them in domestic bliss. They wore matching robes and shared household duties. Both eventually married women, but their bond remained strong. Scott became one of the most reliable box office draws in Westerns. His stoic presence defined the genre for a generation. His collaboration with director Bud Boetticher created several classic Westerns. These films showed Scott at his most iconic. His final film, Ride the High Country, provided a perfect career capstone. Scott went on to marry twice, but questions about his sexuality persisted. He never addressed the rumors. He invested his earnings wisely in real estate. He became one of the wealthiest stars in Hollywood. The true nature of Scott and Grant's relationship remains speculated upon by historians. Their companionship represented one of Hollywood's most enduring partnerships. Scott's legacy as a Western hero remains untarnished by the rumors. His dignity and restraint made him beloved by audiences and colleagues alike. Number 4. Spencer Tracy. Spencer Tracy built his career on tough guy roles and everyman characters. His apparent relationship with Katharine Hepburn lasted decades. Many now believe this relationship was arranged or exaggerated by studios. Persistent rumors of Tracy's relationships with men followed him throughout his career. He remained married to Louise Treadwell until his death, though they lived separately. Tracy struggled with alcoholism and inner demons. His Catholic guilt reportedly troubled him deeply. Tracy won 2 consecutive Academy Awards in the 1930s. His naturalistic acting style influenced countless performers. He made 9 films with Hepburn, creating one of cinema's great partnerships. Their on-screen chemistry was undeniable. The truth about their off-screen relationship remains complicated. Tracy never divorced his wife, citing religious reasons. He supported her work in founding a school for deaf children. Their son was deaf, and this shaped Tracy's commitment to his family. The truth about Tracy's sexuality remains contested by historians. What's clear is that his public image was carefully constructed. The gap between his screen persona and private reality likely caused tremendous personal pain. Tracy's final film, Guess Who's Coming to Dinner, showed his enduring talent. He died just 17 days after completing it. Number 3. Ramon Novarro. Ramon Novarro rose to fame as a silent film star and major heartthrob. His role in Ben-Hur, 1925, made him an international sensation. Novarro's homosexuality was an open secret in Hollywood circles. Studio executives at MGM pressured him to maintain a heterosexual public image. He never married, citing his Catholic faith as the reason. Novarro kept his private life carefully guarded. His career faded with the arrival of sound pictures. Tragically, Novarro was murdered in 1968 by 2 brothers he had invited to his home. They believed he had hidden money in the house. His death highlighted the dangers gay men faced when meeting potential partners. His legacy shows how vulnerable closeted celebrities were to exploitation and violence. Number 2. Raymond Burr. Raymond Burr became a television icon as Perry Mason and later as Robert Ironside. His private life remained carefully guarded throughout his career. Burr invented elaborate stories about past marriages. He created a fictional son who had died of leukemia. These fabrications helped deflect questions about his personal life. In reality, Burr lived with his partner Robert Benavides for over 30 years. They built businesses together, including a vineyard. Studio executives and publicists helped maintain Burr's fictional biography. Only after he died in 1993 did the truth about his life emerge fully. Burr's elaborate deceptions show the extraordinary lengths gay actors went to protect their careers and privacy. Number 1. Robert Reed. Robert Reed entered American homes weekly as Mike Brady on The Brady Bunch. He portrayed the ideal suburban father figure. Behind the scenes, Reed kept his sexuality hidden throughout his career. He married but later divorced. Reed frequently clashed with producers over the show's scripts. His perfectionism masked deeper frustrations about living inauthentically. Cast members knew about his sexuality but kept his secret. Reed never came out publicly during his lifetime. He died in 1992 from colon cancer, with HIV as a contributing factor. Only after his death did his sexuality become widely known. Reed's story shows how gay men often found themselves playing heterosexual ideals on screen while hiding their truth off camera. So what does this reveal about the price of fame and the lengths these stars had to go to just to survive in Hollywood's unforgiving spotlight? These hidden stories remind us that even the strongest heroes have secrets. If you want to uncover more shocking truths about the lives of Hollywood's biggest icons, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. You won't want to miss what's coming next. What if I told you that some of the biggest action stars were secretly gay, living a life Hollywood desperately tried to erase? Behind the roaring engines, explosive fight scenes, and perfect on-screen romances, these stars were hiding their true selves, trapped in a world where revealing their sexuality could destroy everything they'd worked for. In a time when being gay meant the end of a career, these men navigated fame with a mask of straightness, their personal lives buried under layers of secrecy. Here are 20 action stars whose hidden truth could have shattered their careers, if it ever got out. Number 20. Rock Hudson. Rock Hudson was the epitome of Hollywood's golden boy, the ruggedly handsome heartthrob adored by millions. But behind the flawless exterior, Hudson harbored a secret that could have destroyed his career if it ever got out. In a time when being gay meant instant ruin, Hudson's relationships with men were kept hidden from the public eye. The studios worked tirelessly to maintain his ladies' man image, feeding the public's desire for a perfect, all-American star. But when AIDS tragically claimed his life, the truth finally came crashing into the spotlight. His death exposed a life lived in fear, a secret so carefully guarded that it couldn't be hidden forever. Rock Hudson's story wasn't just about stardom, it was about survival in a world that demanded silence. Number 19. Cary Grant. Cary Grant, with his impeccable charm and debonair looks, was the definition of a ladies' man. But behind closed doors, his closest relationship was with fellow actor Randolph Scott, sparking rumors that would follow him for decades. The world saw a suave, sophisticated heartthrob on the screen, but the truth was far more complex. Despite the Hollywood studios working overtime to protect his public persona, whispers of Grant's true sexual orientation never truly disappeared. It wasn't just the public's fascination with his on-screen romances, it was the untold story behind the scenes. The pressure to maintain his straight image weighed heavily on Grant, who never publicly confirmed the rumors. His personal life remained a well-guarded secret, but the question remains, how much of his life was truly his own? Number 18. Marlon Brando. Marlon Brando was more than just a screen legend. He was an enigma. His performances were raw, intense, and unforgettable, but they hid a much deeper personal story. Brando was known for his passionate relationships with both men and women, yet he never publicly confirmed the rumors that swirled around his sexuality. Hollywood's biggest bad boy was also a man who had to play by the industry's rules, which meant hiding parts of himself that would have ruined him. Brando's private life was a labyrinth of contradictions, one that his fans never fully understood. His story remains one of Hollywood's greatest mysteries. Was he just a genius actor, or was there a truth lurking beneath the surface that he couldn't reveal? Number 17. Peter Lawford. Peter Lawford, the charming member of the Rat Pack, was a man of many faces. On the outside, he exuded sophistication, mingling with Hollywood's elite and maintaining his position as a beloved heartthrob. But his true self was something else entirely. Lawford's private life was a well-kept secret. He had relationships with both men and women, yet his public persona never hinted at this hidden reality. The studios worked hard to protect his image, knowing that any exposure could have been career-ending. Lawford's suave socialite persona was a carefully crafted illusion, one that hid his truth behind the curtains of Hollywood's glittering facade. What was the cost of living in the closet for so long? His career was built on secrecy and survival. Number 16. Errol Flynn. Errol Flynn was the swashbuckling hero everyone adored. The charming, fearless man of action who captured the hearts of audiences worldwide. But behind the scenes, his life was anything but simple. Flynn's flamboyant personality and close bonds with male friends fueled rumors that he was far more than just a ladies' man. He was a man living a double life, playing the role of the heartthrob while concealing his true identity. Hollywood may have celebrated his on-screen exploits, but Flynn's personal life was filled with complexities that couldn't be erased. He was forced to wear a mask, one that hid the real man beneath the bravado. Could the true Errol Flynn have been just as iconic had the world known the real story? Number 15. James Mason. James Mason's career was built on sophistication and suave charm, but the man behind the roles remained a mystery. Known for his portrayal of cultured, polished characters, Mason's personal life was a tightly guarded secret. His friendships with men, some of them notably close, sparked speculation about his sexuality. Yet Mason never spoke about it. He never confirmed the whispers. In Hollywood, where public perception was everything, Mason kept his truth hidden, fearing the consequences of revealing his true self. The industry had a way of burying the most uncomfortable truths, and for Mason, silence was his shield. His story remains a quiet testament to the price of secrecy in a world where image was everything. Number 14. Burt Lancaster. Burt Lancaster was the quintessential tough guy, rugged, masculine, and the perfect leading man in every sense. On the outside, he lived the dream: powerful roles, a beloved star status, and a reputation as a ladies' man. But privately, Lancaster's life was far more complex. His sexual orientation was a subject of whispers and rumors within Hollywood circles, yet the man himself never addressed it publicly. Lancaster lived in the shadow of his public persona, keeping his true self under wraps to protect his career. The price of fame in a time of deep societal restrictions meant silence, and Lancaster paid that price every day. What would his legacy have looked like if the truth had come to light? Number 13. Anthony Quinn. Anthony Quinn was the powerful force behind some of Hollywood's most iconic roles. Known for his performances in Zorba the Greek and Lawrence of Arabia. But while his career soared, his personal life remained a closely guarded secret. Although he was married twice, rumors of his romantic liaisons with men circulated in whispers. Quinn's story was one of survival, as he kept his private life tightly sealed, knowing that any hint of his true identity could have shattered his career. Hollywood wasn't kind to those who strayed from the expected norms, and Quinn understood the stakes. His truth was never fully revealed, leaving his personal story to remain one of Hollywood's many untold secrets. Number 12. Cesar Romero. Cesar Romero may have been Hollywood's original Latin lover, but his real life was far more complicated than his on-screen personas suggested. Best known for playing the Joker in the 1960s Batman series, Romero was adored by fans for his smooth charm and good looks. Yet, despite his on-screen romantic roles, Romero never married, and rumors about his sexuality dogged him throughout his life. He never publicly addressed the speculation, choosing instead to live his life in secrecy. His fame as a ladies' man may have been a carefully cultivated image, but the true story of his life remains a mystery, hidden behind the mask of Hollywood's expectations. What drove Romero to keep his truth buried for so long? Number 11. Ramon Novarro. Ramon Novarro was one of Hollywood's brightest stars during the silent film era, a heartthrob who captivated audiences with his charm and talent. But his rise to fame was also marked by a painful secret. Novarro's Mexican heritage, combined with his hidden sexuality, made his Hollywood journey perilous. In an industry where public image was everything, Novarro was forced to live a double life, concealing his true identity to protect his career. The pressures of hiding who he truly was eventually caught up with him, leading to a tragic end. Novarro's story is one of heartbreak, as the world saw a star but never truly understood the man behind the screen. Number 10. Sal Mineo. Sal Mineo lit up the screen in Rebel Without a Cause, capturing hearts with his intensity and vulnerability. But behind that rising star was a young man living in fear. For years, Mineo kept his sexuality hidden, terrified that the truth would end his career. In a time when even a whisper could destroy everything, he played the game, smiling for the cameras, hiding his reality. Later in life, he finally came out, but it was a brave step taken after years of isolation and secrecy. Tragically, his life ended too soon, just as he was stepping into his truth. What might have been had Hollywood let him live openly from the start. Number 9. Montgomery Clift. Montgomery Clift was one of the most brilliant actors of his time, but also one of the most haunted. His striking good looks and emotional depth made him a star, yet his personal life was marked by silent suffering. Clift's relationships with men were an open secret in Hollywood, but never spoken of publicly. He lived behind a mask, torn between who he was and who the world expected him to be. The emotional toll was visible in his performances, raw with pain and vulnerability. Clift never came out before his death, leaving behind a legacy of both genius and tragedy. Could he have survived the truth at a different time? Number 8. Tab Hunter. Tab Hunter had the look, the charm, and the adoration of millions. But his life was a script written by the studio, not one he could call his own. In the 1950s, Hunter was a teen idol, the boy every girl dreamed of. Behind the scenes, though his sexuality was carefully hidden, studio executives staged fake romances and media appearances to sell the fantasy, knowing that one wrong move could end his career. The fear was constant, the pressure suffocating. Hunter eventually told his story, but only decades later. His truth was buried under decades of deceit. How many others lived the same lie? Number 7. Van Johnson. Van Johnson, the golden boy of the silver screen, was known for his wholesome, all-American charm, but there was always something the cameras didn't catch. Johnson's private life was the subject of hushed whispers. Rumors of secret relationships with men swirled around him for years. Yet he never addressed them, choosing to protect his carefully built image. In a Hollywood that demanded conformity, Johnson played the role expected of him, but the price was steep. How much of himself did he have to sacrifice to stay in the spotlight? Number 6. Richard Chamberlain. Richard Chamberlain was the heartthrob of millions, especially in his roles in Dr. Kildare and the Thornbirds. But for decades, he lived a double life. Chamberlain's sexuality was a carefully guarded secret, locked away for fear that the truth would destroy his career. He smiled for the cameras, gave interviews about women, and hid a part of himself for years. Only later in life did he come out, long after the industry could hurt him. His story is one of survival, but also sorrow. How different could his life have been if he hadn't been forced to hide? Number 5. George Nader. George Nader had it all: the looks, the talent, the screen presence to be a leading man, but one truth ended everything. When Nader was outed, his Hollywood dream came crashing down. Roles vanished, and the industry turned its back on him. His career was in a heartbeat, a reminder of how brutal and unforgiving the system could be. Nader never denied who he was. He simply paid the price for it. What does that say about the world he worked so hard to belong to? Number 4. Dirk Bogarde. Dirk Bogarde was a British film icon, known for his polished charm and striking performances. But his greatest relationship, his lifelong partnership with his manager, was never acknowledged publicly. Bogarde lived a life of subtle defiance, refusing to marry or conform, yet never revealing the truth either. For decades, he dodged questions, kept up appearances, and let the world believe what it wanted. Only after his death did many begin to piece together the truth of his hidden love. In the shadows of fame, how many secrets went to the grave with him? Number 3. Farley Granger. Farley Granger, best remembered for his role in Hitchcock's Rope, lived a life balanced on a knife's edge. Within his close circle, he was open about his relationships with men, but to the public, he wore a different face. Granger never officially came out, caught between acceptance in private and silence in the spotlight. Hollywood was a world of illusion, and Granger was forced to live in one of the greatest illusions of all. How does a man stay true to himself when the world demands a lie? Number 2. William Haynes. William Haynes was a trailblazer long before the world was ready. In the 1920s, he was one of Hollywood's top stars and openly gay among friends. But when the studios told him to choose between his career and his relationship, Haynes chose love. He walked away from fame rather than deny the man he loved. His stardom vanished, but he built a new life as a successful interior designer, staying true to himself until the end. Haynes didn't just survive, he thrived. Could there be a more powerful act of defiance? Number 1. Raymond Burr. Raymond Burr captivated audiences as the brilliant attorney in Perry Mason, but his off-screen life was one of carefully crafted lies. Burr never married, but that didn't stop studios from inventing stories. Fabricated wives, tragic deaths, and cover-ups, all to protect his secret. Behind the curtain, Burr had a longtime partner, but their relationship was kept hidden from the public eye. Hollywood demanded perfection, and Burr gave it at the cost of his truth. How many stories were rewritten just to fit the mold? These stars were forced to live behind masks, hiding who they truly were in a world that didn't accept them. But their stories also remind us of the power of resilience and the price of being true to oneself. In the end, their legacies are not just defined by their on-screen roles, but by their courage to live life on their terms. Who knows what might have happened if the world had been ready to accept them for who they were. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share if you want more untold stories from Hollywood's past. Stay curious.